Spadina-Fort York City Councillor Joe Cressy has been an outspoken member of council since first being elected in 2014. He's championed public transit, cannabis legalization and affordable housing, to name a few of the issues. But now he's speaking out about a more personal struggle, his mental health. For the first time, he's speaking publicly about coming to terms with his anxiety disorder. And he joins us now tonight. Thanks for coming in, Joe.
No, you bet.
You wrote about this in Toronto Life. And that was a big step for you, I'm sure, just talking about it and sharing your story with the public. Why did you decide to take it public?
You know, listen, I think like a lot of Canadians, like a lot of people in Toronto, I've struggled with mental illness. And for a long time, as part of my journey, I didn't know it was mental illness. In fact, I kept looking for a physical diagnosis. I live with anxiety and I've suffered from depression. And, you know, a couple of years ago, I had a 2 a.m. visit to a hospital. I thought I was having a heart attack, and it was a wake-up call to actually get help and to explore my own mental health. And
you know, I'm surprised that you weren't able to recognize the symptoms within yourself, because you have a family history of mental health issues. Your uncles both suffered from mental health. You had a mother that worked at CAMH. Yeah. You had a very supportive family. You wrote about this in the article, that treated mental health issues like a physical disorder. You know, a very supportive family. Why do you think you didn't recognize those symptoms within yourself?
You know, I think this is part of society at large, and you spoke to it. I mean, here I grew up in a household where we spoke openly about mental health and had personal experience, in particular with 2 uncles living with mental illness and schizophrenia. And so, yeah, I should have known the signs and symptoms, and when it was time for me to explore my own challenges, I felt completely unprepared. And I think that's often the case with mental illness, is that even as we seek to break down the stigma, and even as people like DeMarta Rosen talk about depression and Bell Let's Talk and other campaigns, even with all of that, we don't know how to ask for help. And often there's still this feeling, at least I found, that there must be something wrong with me. It can't be mental health. It must be my chest or my heart or this or that. And so, you know, I wrote this piece in Toronto Life. I spent about a year working up to writing it, in part for my own healing. You know, I feel more normal when I talk about it. And also because I just think we're healthier as a society when we share our stories, and that's part of how we break down the barriers to dealing with mental illness.
Is that part of your healing journey? You spoke about learning from your psychiatrist and learning from your mental health providers. What were those lessons that you took that you could also share with people?
Well, listen, I had a wonderful psychiatrist I saw at CAMH who, you know, he described psychiatry as an art driven by science, but with a passion for understanding. And so, you know, treatment works. You know, that's the biggest thing I can tell people.
And that's such a stigma, but yet it works.
It works. Yeah. And, you know, in my case, you know, a combination between antidepressants as medication along with cognitive behavioral therapy, a technique to deal with anxiety, treatment works. And so I think the first message out there for people is ask for help, because this isn't a life sentence. And then the other thing, I guess I would say, is that, you know, my situation was lucky. You know, I was able to access health care and treatment. I had supportive friends and family who would listen without judgment. That's not always the case. And so people need access to treatment, but far too often they can't find it. And so just as we need to share our stories, we need to continue to ensure that people who need access to treatment can find it.
100%. Thank you for coming in and sharing your story. We appreciate it.
No, my pleasure.
Okay.